Now, at 90 minutes to 7, it was billed as the game of the decade and drew hundreds of fans to London's Leicester Square late last night for an event which looked rather like a film premiere.
The long-awaited video game Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2.
Full support to aid in any way possible.
Zakhaev kept Makarov in check, but no longer.
The wait is finally over!
From coast to coast, gamers lined up to get their hands on this little package, Halo 3.
Halo 3 is here.
If it's a big day for gamers, it's a million times bigger for Microsoft.
Hello ladies and gentlemen. The things you have just witnessed there is the opening launch nights for two of the biggest world's first-person shooter online multiplayer games of all time. I don't think I need to tell you how much of a success that Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 was. I mean, it was incredibly huge. Millions upon millions of people. The BBC covered it, news agencies covered it. It was around the world insane. And the same can be said for Halo 3 2007. The launch night was spectacular, being the biggest and most extraordinary first-person shooter for its time. Halo 3 launched with online multiplayer bigger than Halo 2, and it sold amazingly. Why I've shown you those two clips is to give perspective on what really dominated the market late 2000s to early 2010s is first-person shooter online games, or hell, not even first-person shooters, but online games were massive. Xbox Live, teamwork games, online PvP, it was huge. The shit talking was huge. The games were huge, and I want to show a real perspective of how much they dominated the market. I mean, you can see it just by looking at their sales. Call of Duty, Battlefield, Halo. These are all huge online games that would continue to thrive until recently, where online games seem to have taken a bit of a hit. And I want to really talk to you about why, and really explore how this has happened and what are the reasons for it. However, to do this, we need to talk about the past, and I mean a lot about the past. In the early 1990s, games like Doom were very popular, and also Half-Life. However, these were not online, these were very linear and smaller games, which obviously couldn't fit on a larger console. Moving through the 2000s, however, with the launch of Halo 2 and Xbox Live, online games blew up, and by Halo 3, people were playing them non-stop. I mean, I wasn't part of that generation, but I can always remember stories of either my brother-in-law or, people talking to me, older people who were in their 20s saying, oh yeah man, I can remember getting back on the Xbox to play some Halo 3 or some Black Ops Zombies. It was huge, and that's what dominated the market. Going into the early 2010s, it didn't stop either. Whilst there still was a lot of story games like Assassin's Creed and Far Cry, even they were becoming online with Far Cry's online systems and game modes and things like that, as well as being able to make your own maps. Even GTA became heavily online in 2013 to 14, making itself massive. And trust me when I say, there was no signs of these online games slowing down. Even with Call of Duty's image getting tainted by its futuristic route and Halo slowly dying, new online games continued to pop up, such as Battlefield 1, which was a commercial success for DICE and EA, and even more games beginning to pop up. 2015 saw Star Wars Battlefront 1, and even Black Ops 3, which was Call of Duty's big Black Ops game. Even though Call of Duty was dying in its popularity, it still retained huge audiences for the online games. Hell, a lot of games didn't even launch with stories anymore, opting out, saying it wasn't worth it, it wasn't needed, so they would launch only online, being a massive emphasis on online. 2017 would be the age of the huge Battle Royale games such as PUBG and then eventually, of course, Fortnite. And Fortnite really did change the gaming industry. Now, I'm not here to argue whether it did for good or bad, but you cannot argue, I mean no one can argue, that either they haven't hopped on Fortnite at some point in their lives or that it hasn't changed the gaming industry forever. Gone were loot boxes from Star Wars Battlefront 2 because of how controversial they are, and bring on the new battle passes, and I mean bring them on, because they have been through every game pretty much since. Fortnite being a massive battleground, battle royale type game, made a huge new industry purely just for online. I mean, what's the point in playing Fortnite if you don't have online? There's no point. Battle Royale games made you have to get online. And soon games like Call of Duty would be doing it. And now this is when the online games were at their peak. Still having great games like 2018's Red Dead Redemption 2 launch, and as well as God of War 1, but with that story retainment. But still, online games continued to dominate, even though they would slow down in 2019 and 18, still dominating. Even Call of Duty would have sort of a revival with MW1 2019, sort of reviving the whole boots on the ground COD system, the thing that World War II couldn't do. However, reviving it, and the player count was insane. Warzone was loved by all, and I'm pretty sure the game hindered something like $1.2 billion, which is incredible. And it just shows how good the online market was and how it was dominating. Fortnite continued to get update upon update on update, and I just think it's insane, really. Okay, I'm going to take this minute to just explain my views and point here. So, I got Halo 3 when I was about 5 or 4, something like that. And I can remember playing story mission on story mission on story mission. I wasn't allowed Xbox Live, or whatever it was called back then. I was never allowed it. So I remember playing over and over again the same missions. And the same with Modern Warfare 1 and COD 4. I would play the exact same missions again and again and again. Even when I got more and more first-person shooter games, the only thing I was exposed to was the story. So, this brings me on to my point. After years and years of online games and me having to search for story games, and hell, if you talk to people about a Call of Duty campaign in the late 2010s, they would laugh at you and say you're nuts for even, buying a COD for that. But that's what I used to do. Until now, when I didn't have to. An update, and more online games would be made and made. However, a lot would change in 2020, when the pandemic hit extremely hard, forcing many companies to slow down on projects and start fresh even, some companies even going bankrupt. This would hit gamers very hard, as 2020 there would be hardly any releases, except Marvel's Avengers, you guys remember that piece of shit? And one story game that I can note in my head, Ghost of Tsushima. Other than that, nothing really. 2021 would come along, and oh my god, would the lineups be insane. The big three going at it again. Halo had died with Halo 4, really, realistically, back in 2013. However, its revival would be coming soon. Halo Infinite, the player base, was so ready. Halo was ready for its revival. Call of Duty would launch Call of Duty Vanguard, which looked like a cooler version of World War II, and following a new intricate story with great online graphics and visuals. And then the all-time awaited, my most hyped game other than Infinite for 2021, Battlefield 2042. This game looked incredible. The trailers looked incredible. Me and my friends were so hyped for this game, so incredibly hyped, and then they all dropped. And soon after, so did their player bases. Battlefield 2042 was a colossal failure and a miserable excuse for a game, with no explodable environments, a very glitchy and finicky game, with many people, including myself, being incredibly disappointed. Call of Duty Vanguard, on the other hand, was one of, if not the worst Call of Duty game experiences of all time, being a complete copy and cock-out for Modern Warfare 2019. And then finally Halo Infinite, which did have a good story, but lack of content made the game slowly become more repetitive and incredibly boring as the company refused to update the game. This was modern gaming in 2021, and this was what I was scared would be the next few years of gaming. The first game that stuck out for me in 2022 was Dying Light 2, which was meant to be released at the very end of 2021, but got shifted over to the early January to February for 2022, and it blew my mind. The mechanics, everything about it, it just felt new and fresh, and it felt like, most importantly, it had been made with love and care. But that wasn't the main thing. Sure, Dying Light 2 had tainted me towards gaming again, but I still had my fears, until Elden Ring dropped. I remember sitting and seeing the trailer for Elden Ring, and seeing the view count of something like 12 million views, and saying, wow, this is amazing. A Dark Souls game had never ever seen so many new players or views on a trailer. Hell, I mean, it was incredible, 12 million views on a trailer, and I then realised why that was. I heard the phrase modern gaming is dead a lot, but I realised why people had been saying this and why Elden Ring had drawn so much attention. People have been saying modern gaming was dead because the last 2 years hadn't been very fun. But maybe people need to open their cocoon for more games other than just online ones. When Elden Ring dropped, it was incredibly fun. I got shit on. I'm still not very good at the game. However, I loved it. And me being someone who had zero interest in the Dark Souls games at all, and thought it was even bull-busting to even think about wanting to get one, I was instantly hooked on Elden Ring, much like any other people who hadn't played Dark Souls games. This was because people could tell it was made with love and passion, and people wanted a game like this, something that they could say to their favourite developers, 343, fuck you, look what I've got a game dev, a game developer who's made a glorious art. And it didn't stop there. When the big corporate companies did start to release their games, things looked good. For example, just recently, Modern Warfare 2 2022 is a glorious game, with its multiplayer being refined and pushed, but its story being looked at and shaped and molded and crafted, and it's beautiful. Another game I played that was absolutely fantastic was LEGO Star Wars The United Trilogy. I mean, it was incredible. 9 games alone, 9 LEGO games with an open world, with unique and cool dialogue, all in a story game that had sold something like 6 million copies within very, very fast time, amazed me, and it made me incredibly happy. As well as, obviously, other games launching and soon to be launching with campaigns, such as Overwatch 2, but is now getting a campaign. And I have to wonder why, Call of Duty and companies that only make online games are putting so much effort in, and then I really look and I see why, and it's simply because of games like Elden Ring. So this video for me, this video for me is more of a love letter to story games. Ever since I got Red Dead Redemption 2, I'd been hooked on story games, and well, ever since I was younger, I was hooked on online story games. So I want to just thank the creators of Elden Ring, and the creators of Dying Light 2, and the creators of Modern Warfare 2022, and the creators of the LEGO Star Wars saga, and you get my point. I want to thank the creators for all the story games in 2022, because they have truly revived the story game like industry, and I'm happy to say that more and more people now are saying, hey, I just played God of War 2, it was really good. Or, hey, I just played Stray. Or, hey, I just played this story game. And I'm not hearing as many people going, hey, do you want to come play Modern Warfare 2 online with me and stuff like that. People are more intrinsically valued towards the story games now. And it makes me so happy they're still getting recognition, whilst the online games can still be loved and enjoyed, like Modern Warfare 2. I am so happy that we have story games back, and I will never stop loving them, because there's such an in-depth and beautiful look into them that just makes me as a gamer so happy and so pleased. So that's my take on story games, and that's sort of this love letter, as well as story games in a whole. Funny story games too. I mean, we had the beautiful Stray, which just looked gorgeous, and as well as the hilarious Rick and Morty game, which really was quite funny. But I just wanted to say, I love story games. I'm so happy this has, happened. I'm so happy that, the industry's back. I mean, we got it back after 2020 and 2021 of just dead games. We're back. And this is me saying, story games are back. And hopefully, I pray, they are back for good, Hopefully they're back for good.